Beyond the headlines. This is World Insight.
APEC trade ministers have issued a joint statement upon conclusion of their meeting in Suzhou. Will it open a golden era for the free trade area of the Asia-Pacific?
We understand the statements coming from two Chinese business leaders, but of course they are businesses for the APEC region. The topic is simple and yet complicated. How to really advance FTAAP. We've been talking about this for 20 years, and we are still not yet see its golden time. Is it coming?
Yes, Daja hao, kia ora tātou. Nice to be with you here in Beijing, and thank you again for the invitation to be here. As you've said, APEC has long championed the idea of APEC economies working together to achieve the eventual free trade area of the Asia-Pacific. And as you've said, we first started these conversations about 25 years ago. In fact, I think I was in the room when we began that topic. By creating a more integrated commercial landscape, FTAAP would foster a more open, predictable, business-friendly, inclusive and sustainable environment for trade and investment across the region. We are strong supporters of rules-based trade, so we see value in exploring areas of convergence across the region's many trade agreements. However, from the business perspective, we need tangible improvements to the business environment now. Working on bringing trade agreements together can be painstaking and often slow, but businesses are already dealing with some very significant structural shifts that we've heard about today. These include the emergence of disruptive technologies such as Gen AI and quantum. We also face unprecedented disruptions to supply chains, economic fragmentation, and rising protectionism. And of course, we also have the major shared challenge of the climate response, including the energy transition. APEC argues that the best way ahead for FTAAP, including to respond to these immediate challenges, is to build FTAAP from the bottom up. So to achieve some tangible improvements for businesses now that we can see and feel in the short term. That way we can get FTAAP moving now.
Thank you. 最近举行的 APEC
At the recent APEC meeting, all participants issued a statement in support of the free trade area of the Asia-Pacific. To what extent can this statement assist economic leaders, policymakers, and business representatives across our economies in formulating viable solutions?
一起来寻找这样一个解决方案，有请。
This statement clearly outlines vast market opportunities for Asia-Pacific economies, which fall into three core categories. First, the massive scale and strong resilience of APEC economies create new opportunities. Collectively, these economies account for nearly 60% of global GDP and have served as the primary engine of world economic growth over the past 2 decades, a role they will continue to fill in the future. Second, Asia-Pacific economies occupy a pivotal hub position within global industrial chains. Now we are facing ongoing restructuring global industrial chain and many new challenges. This central hub function remains robust. Third, Asia-Pacific economies share a clear consensus to unite and pursue common development. By capitalizing on this alignment, we can seize upcoming opportunities.
共同发展，我们会把下一个机遇呢牢牢地抓住，这就是我们面临的可能呢新的挑战。
At the same time, the global economy faces severe volatility. Industrial chains are shifting toward short-term localized arrangements, and fragmented division of labor is generating irreversible negative impacts. We must jointly mitigate these challenges to unlock stronger growth prospects.
抓住前面的机遇，我们就能够实现更好的发展。
那么从我们的
Against a backdrop of rising external uncertainties, how can the business community in the Asia-Pacific forge viable paths through cross-regional collaboration?
For enterprises operating globally, the core to boosting international trade and cross-border cooperation lies in fulfilling their fundamental corporate responsibilities. Many attendees here are our users. Over 22 years of operation in China, we have built a comprehensive talent training system that has earned us the trust of consumers and the recognition of our employees. We uphold the same standards as a responsible corporate citizen overseas. In Europe, we employ more than 4,000 staff. In the UK, we constantly remind ourselves that investing in a market should not be solely about profit generation. Instead, we must integrate corporate growth with local employment, tax revenue, and economic progress. To realize APEC's vision of shared prosperity and a shared future, enterprises must stay grounded in their core obligations. Respect local laws, cultures, and economic conditions, and achieve organic integration with host communities. Businesses can not only seek profits during booms and withdraw support during downturns without contributing to local development. That is my core viewpoint.
What about for you, Marjorie? FTAAP has been serving as an anchor for stability for the region, but what is the next step? Your thoughts on this?
Well, before we talk about the next step, maybe let's look back a little bit. I think you and I have shared the stage for many years, and I think we were very lucky to be at the time when globalization was heralded as a wonderful, positive thing for the world. Today, we see a little bit of setback. Hong Kong, where I come from, has always embraced the concept of the free trade area of Asia Pacific. We were once chosen by Milton Friedman. I don't know how many of you still remember that. I think maybe most of the people in this room are so young that it's economic history. But we're still adhering to those principles. I think at this time, at this moment, it is critical that we revisit all the benefits that it's brought us and not give up to pursue it. On a more practical basis, I think what Hong Kong has chosen to do is to try to resolve some of the technical barriers. Different countries have different definitions. It makes it so difficult to do cross-border business. And then we have to tackle paperless trade, as Mr. Lee earlier mentioned. We still have difficulties tackling the 4 pieces of trade documents. We can't even resolve a bill of lading. There's a lot of work to be done. There may not be mass agreement, but it does not make any excuse for us to continue to push on every little step. So for Hong Kong, we're working on the rules of origin. We're going ahead with Melita, and we hope that we will be able to take as many of our SMEs on board with us.
Thank you very much for that economic history briefing.
We have heard preliminary perspectives in the first round of discussions. As the saying goes, the devil is in the details. In this next segment, we invite each panelist to elaborate on concrete, actionable measures from their respective sectors. Please.
So let me start, 葛总.
Thank you. From the financial sector's perspective, 3 priorities will support FTAAP development and broader Asia-Pacific economic growth. First, we need a more open financial product ecosystem tailored to regional economic development. This new ecosystem differs drastically from past models. China's decades-long reform and opening up were largely export-oriented, with one-way financial service flows. Today, financial support for economic development must adopt a two-way framework, empowering Chinese enterprises to expand overseas and facilitating foreign firms' investment in China rather than only catering to domestic market demands. Traditional financial products can no longer meet future market demands. We must innovate cross-border financial solutions centered on enterprises' real needs, marking a fundamental shift in product design logic.
现在呢，面对未来我们面对的市场机遇，我们需要解决呢更多创新的产品，更多的呢是跨境金融的产品，而不是单向的一个金融服务。这个方面呢，需要呢我们的产品体系更多的考虑企业的诉求，是这样的一个巨大的转换。第二一点呢，我觉得更多的金融服务呢，
Financial services require enhanced interconnectivity via integrated financial infrastructure. We have maintained close communication with China's financial infrastructure operators, including cooperative projects with UnionPay to roll out cross-border QR code payment systems across APEC member economies. Robust financial infrastructure covers local clearing and cross-border settlement, supported by diversified direct bilateral channels, moving beyond outdated single-path settlement frameworks. Third, collaborative, integrated financial services are essential. Financial institutions must build extensive bridges between financial and non-financial services across economies. As local market specialists in every economy, financial institutions are uniquely positioned to deliver bundled, non-financial support alongside financial products to drive shared regional growth.
跨境经营过程中呢，解决他们非金融服务的需求。我们呢，因为最了解呢，金融机构呢，在哪一个经济体都最了解当地市场，了解当地企业的情况。我们需要呢，可能呢，更协同的提供非金融的服务，帮助我们的经济体实现一个共同的发展。
For context, Bank of China is the only institution among the 29 global systemically important banks with physical branches in all 21 APEC economies. It's a unique global footprint. We will leverage this advantage to advance openness, connectivity, and cross-economy collaboration under the APEC framework. Thank you.
这是全球唯一的，我们可以发挥这样的作用呢，在 APEC 这个框架下。 发挥我们更大的作用，帮助呢不同的经济体之间实现呢开放、互通、协同。
在中国企业在全球
As Chinese enterprises expand globally and collaborate across the Asia-Pacific region, what role can AI play? What approaches are we currently adopting to leverage it?
方法来使用它。
我们在5年前决定启动我们国际业务的时候呢，我们当年就制定的是了叫双向奔赴计划。
When we decided to launch our international business, we rolled out an initiative called the Two-Way Distribution Program. Let me explain what this program entails. China is home to numerous outstanding local brands that have achieved tremendous domestic success. Brands like Hisense and Haier, household names for many. Yet their market share overseas remains relatively modest. Through our global supply chain services, we aim to help these premium Chinese brands go global. We also operate across numerous markets, including Japan, South Korea, Australia, New Zealand, Southeast Asia, and Europe. Every country hosts a large number of small and medium-sized enterprises, or SMEs. Virtually all major global brands entered China decades ago. Yet over 90% of overseas SMEs still struggle to conduct business in China. This is not due to insufficient openness on China's part. Instead, they face immense hurdles related to talent recruitment, compliance certification, and capital access. Our cross-border integrated service model reverses this dynamic. Second, as a major operator of physical logistics infrastructure, we stand at the cusp of the AI and robotics revolution. We are committed to developing compliant large language models. Yet our investment in R&D is still not enough for now. For data collection alone, we have gathered over 10 million hours of first-person and third-person human video footage worldwide. To deliver reliable outcomes, we will spare no effort to fully understand regional regulatory frameworks and market rules. Moving forward, all our tech and capital projects will be co-developed with partners across overseas markets, including the Asia-Pacific region. We oppose the creation of tech barriers by any single enterprise or country. We employ 720,000 frontline delivery staff. While robotic delivery will eventually replace human couriers, we refuse to let our hundreds of thousands of logistics workers lose their livelihoods. To address this, we have signed cooperation agreements with 124 vocational schools nationwide. We will send our delivery personnel back to campus for professional skills training, equipping them to maintain and repair delivery robots. As enterprises embrace new technologies, our shared mission should be to improve people's lives and make work more rewarding, not to take away people's jobs.
So I would love to know from you, Brett, what about the priority you have in mind?
Thank you. Look, I'd like to pick up on some of the themes from my fellow speakers today in talking about these early priorities. We think these priorities should be driven from the area that will really shift the dial for businesses in the short term, either to solve a current real-world pain point, and we've heard about some of those, or to set us on the right path in an area that has a multiplier effect across the 21 APEC economies. For example, we would like to see immediate progress towards universal paperless trade. You've already heard about the importance of that from our other speakers. And also around cross-border customs data sharing. Just critical changes that would make a huge difference for businesses in the APEC region. APEC is also updating our supply chain resilience toolkit for MSMEs, or small businesses. Given how critical well-functioning supply chains and trade facilitation are for growth, as the last few years have shown us, and as we've heard from the excellent work that JD.com are doing. We would also like to see a strong emphasis on creating more coherent rules for digital trade, including with a view to supporting the responsible development and use of AI and realising its full potential as generative AI and agentic AI are increasingly pervasive. We've also called for a greener trade framework, a work stream that I have led at APEC to help unlock growth and trade across environmental goods and services, an area where China excels, of course. And this work is not just about trade. There is also a strong case for domestic structural reform in key enablers of productivity and inclusive growth. On the green economy, I've been doing some work this year at APEC on how economies can reconcile the necessary trade-offs that we face between environmental concerns and economic growth, an important area for us to focus on. At APEC, we would also like to see early implementation of the new APEC services roadmap, given the central role that services play in all modern business models and in the APEC economies. APEC also sees the need to be very deliberate about minimising impediments to connectivity, particularly across trade infrastructure, maritime and air connectivity, and people-to-people flows. And you'll hear more about that in the connectivity panel to follow. Lastly, APEC supports the idea of creating a more level playing field for women as part of our early priorities. Together, we cannot achieve the kind of growth we seek across APEC if we leave half of our talent on the bench. Two ideas we have been working on include a new voluntary equal pay framework for businesses and also some work we're doing this year on women in leadership. These are the priorities that we believe can get FTAAP moving.
Topics about sustainability. I know it has always been one of the key issues you're working on. You always say it is difficult, but we have to do it. So what about this time, since it is already on the APEC agenda, and since we are talking about it, based here in China, which is also working very hard on sustainable goals, both globally and also in the business practices, please.
Let's talk about sustainable growth. Well, I would say it's existential. I don't think it is a choice. With the recent weather, you don't have to ask any experts to know that we are at a stage, unless we do something about it, with or without cross-boundary consensus trade rules, the business community we have to save ourselves. So my personal feeling is that, one, I think green practice enhances a corporation's competitiveness. Start with good management. For example, if you practice lean, it will drive total factor productivity. It will be greener, you will be more competitive. If we can have it in the trade agreements, it would be wonderful, but we can't wait for governments to agree. So I think the business community must go ahead regardless of what happens. For us in China, we are very lucky because we have a domestic market. So the rules, the regulations within China is sufficient to drive behavior towards more greener production. Now, for APEC region, I think it is critical that the business community, continue to lobby the governments to come to consensus so that it makes it easier. But it doesn't, regardless, the business community has to get on with green production and green consumption.
在我们讨论 APEC 亚太经济体的时候
Speaking of APEC economies, how do you see openness from a perspective of a business leader in financial sector?
我觉得从今天来看，开放金融和我们企业的愿景。
From my perspective, open finance aligns closely with corporate visions, and we are facing a transformative new opportunity. All economies should now consider the renminbi as an optimal reserve currency option. For entrepreneurs, the renminbi is the top choice for cross-border trade, investment, and settlement. Allocating renminbi-denominated assets represents a major emerging opportunity. Financial institutions stand ready to support economies and enterprises in sustaining long-term growth. The value and functionality of the renminbi as a global currency are increasingly evident. We must seize this new wave of opening up to optimize our asset allocation strategies.
抓住这一轮新的开放的机遇，我们在资产配置方面面临的选择。
Brett, you talk a lot in your earlier readout of all the initiatives by the APEC, but time is very limited. From now until the APEC Economic Leaders Meeting, I think about 7 to 9 ministerial meetings to come. There's likely to be different kinds of focus in between. So how to bring everybody's attention on the crucial topic we're having in mind today?
Innovation in trade happens in interesting ways. So we know that some of the innovation in trade comes at a bilateral or plurilateral level. Already in the last few years, as I talked about, we've made some really good progress around the greener trade framework and the trade in environmental goods and services. And that started with a small group of like-minded economies that have been working together. You mentioned, quite rightly, there are a lot of agreements out there, but we're yet to achieve an agreement in Asia Pacific that brings everybody to the table. I think it's always encouraging when you're at the APEC Leaders Forum, which is a privilege that the APEC members get, to see that there is actually genuine consensus from leaders around wanting to bring these things together. And so I'm optimistic, despite some of the challenges that we see across the region today, that there is a genuine willingness for the 21 economies to work together. I think FTAAP is achievable. I do think it'll be best achieved if we start from the bottom up, because some of the top line issues are thorny and are challenging. And I think we all recognise that this is really a critical point for us in the region to be able to address these areas. So as I look through the drafts of the ministerial letters, which we've been reviewing, I think there is enough common consensus across the 21 economies for us to start getting moving in some of these critical areas. So I hope that when we gather together in Shenzhen in November, that we will come from those meetings with those first building blocks that together can shape FTAAP.
感谢各位的真知灼见。
Thank you for your insights and various voices from different parts of the world. May we achieve more at the APEC CEO Summit and APEC Economies Leaders Meetings. Thank you very much.
I love you. 我爱你. This might be the easiest way to say I love you, since there are so many other romantic expressions. No matter if you're a rookie
你好，我的中文一点点
or a sophisticated learner,
我来北京5年了，我是本地人。
there is definitely something that will interest you. Check out Takeaway Chinese, a word that starts with 你好.